Grab earnings is today. So today after the bell, I will be live for Grab earnings. We will get the results at 4 p.m. and we'll have a lot to discuss because Grab releases a decent amount of information. They have a presentation, they have the actual press release, and then they have a message from the leadership, kind of like the Alex Karp CEO letter, but less philosophical, and there's just like a ton of stuff to go through. But the call will be at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we will get numbers at 4 p.m. I'll have Sam on the show with me. We'll be breaking down the numbers. I'll talk more about Grab in a little bit as we get into the show. But I'll be live again at 7 p.m. to actually listen to the call. So we'll have a ton of stuff to look at later today in regards to Grab. Okay, cool. So let's start off with Palantir. Again, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Back in the studio. Very, very, very happy to just be back in the routine and do what we have to do. Okay, so Palantir announces a partnership today in France. This is actually really good to me. I don't think it's like a market moving or stock moving type of PR, but the good thing is that it's something more than what we've seen in regards to what they're going to be doing in international parts of the world. So here's the headline right here. Let me pull this up. Give me 1 second. They didn't actually put it on their website. And they haven't. Did they put it on their website? Did I just miss it? We haven't had a PR in a while. Yeah, they put it on their website. Okay, here we go. So we have it on the website, but let me pull this up right here. So this is actually the first press release of the year outside of the earnings results. So nice to see this is the first partnership, and it has to do with France. So Palantir today announced a multi-year strategic partnership with SAR Group, a global leader in essential water distribution, wastewater treatment, and smart water solutions to transform contract management processes through Palantir's Foundry advanced generative AI capabilities. In the water and environmental services industry, managing complex multi-year contracts efficiently is critical. These master agreements often span thousands of pages in PDF format and contain a wide range of operational targets and reporting requirements. Gaining clear real-time visibility into these contracts is essential for mitigating risks, ensuring accountability, and delivering high-quality services to customers. So this is really important because, again, it unlocks some actual value from a international commercial perspective in Palantir's business in France. So one of the directors of Palantir France said, this partnership illustrates how companies with drive and clarity of vision can harness Palantir's advanced AI software to smash through the barriers that are holding them back, transforming traditional ways of doing things in order to drive productivity, growth, and better customer satisfaction. Our collaboration with SAR highlights the transformative potential of AI in enterprise settings by incorporating Foundry and AIP capabilities. SAR is now setting a new benchmark for contract management, paving the way for numerous potential applications and innovations within the industry. Now, is this the biggest deal in the world? Not really. It's a good deal. It's an important deal. It's not like it's some game-changing deal. The only reason I think it really matters is because it's happening in France. Now, what did Karp say on the earnings call? Karp said, Germany sucks. France sucks. He didn't literally say it like that, although he kind of said it like that. And basically says they're going to be left behind in terms of their AI, in terms of the AI revolution and overall what's going on in their economies. If anyone caught the 60 Minutes interview that happened on Sunday, I'm not going to play it because CBS is going to copyright your stream. But if anyone hasn't watched it, I'd really suggest watching it. They interviewed German lawyers about the new online speech laws. And it was kind of frightening just as an American to see that if you repost something that is deemed as misinformation or hateful, you could be prosecuted and theoretically you could go to jail. And so I think that is the sentiment, at least in Germany right now. And they interviewed lawyers, right? Lawyers that are supposed to be experts at interpreting the German law. And I think that's kind of Karp's point is like, if you have these types of policies that are really holding back innovation and in particular making people scared to even speak their minds, well, there's going to be an issue. There's going to be an issue at that point. And I'm happy to see that they're at least beginning to expand internationally a little bit more by getting some of these clients that are in France. It's not going to be a ton of growth this year. Probably Karp guided, 2025 is going to be still a transformational year for the US commercial, not really international. But if a light switch can go on international, that's a whole level of growth that I don't think the street is even thinking about. Now, is Palantir priced for that growth? Yeah, times $1 billion. I mean, Palantir is priced for a lot of growth right now, but it would be nice to see us get some more international revenue coming in from the rest of the world. Now, Elon Musk, for those that missed it, reposted Alex Karp yesterday on his Twitter that got 18 million views. That was the first clip. And then he reposted another video of Alex Karp. I think the relationship between Palantir and Doge is becoming real. Here's what Karp said yesterday. This is a 2-minute clip, and this is what Elon reposted on his Twitter yesterday.
Suicide. And like, I've been a Democrat most of my life. I kind of view myself as outside it, but I don't like watching the Democrats just commit suicide. And what I see is most of the country doesn't really, at this point, given the fraud, waste, and abuse we know is there, 90% of the country is like, get rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just view this as yet another example of the progressive left boxing themselves into a suicide dance. Now, what the progressive left should be doing is saying, okay, Elon, you're clearly the most qualified person in the world to do something like this. We want to dialogue with you about how you're doing and what are you doing. I don't believe that's actually what happened. And again, I like Elon. I know I think he's obviously the most important builder in the world. And I just think, if you want to say my former side, I don't believe that they're actually engaging. I think it's like another dance where I'm supposed to say, of course, like whatever. It's like there's this one issue where and then you get boxed into, you cannot solve the problem. And then I would say, what is the biggest problem in this society? Biggest problem in this society, from my perspective, is legitimacy of our institutions. Why?
So obviously, Karp is speaking about the idea that because our institutions are seeming less legitimate, it kind of is the reason why Trump even won in the first place. Is like people just stopped trusting the mainstream media, trusting the establishment, and in a result, we ended up with Donald Trump becoming reelected. Now, Karp's argument here, I think, is sort of underscoring the reason that Doge exists in the first place, or why people are even excited about the concept of Doge. Because if you voted for Trump, you kind of voted for an anti-establishment candidate. Elon Musk and Doge is engaging in anti-establishment procedures by kind of trying to rip up what the establishment has done, especially in the context of our tax dollars. And so Elon reposting that again, I know it's kind of just like trying to put the pieces together of the puzzle, but with all the other evidence we have, along with the relationship between Elon and Karp, Elon and Palantir becoming more and more prevalent, JD Vance, David Sachs again, not saying it justifies almost a $300 billion market cap, but momentum-wise, I can understand why people are buying it. They just believe there is going to be substantial government growth. There is a new Iron Dome initiative as well in the United States, and I think we talked about it last week, but this initiative is going to result in some defense contractors making a decent amount of money. I had someone who actually messaged me yesterday. They were actually at the Iron Dome meeting. They work in DoD contracting, and they said, and I quote, "Honestly, with hundreds of DoD companies around the world, this just feels like a Raytheon, Palantir, and Palantir joint venture. Just the appetite when I was in the meeting spoke mountains, Anduril for sensing, Palantir will interpret the data, and Raytheon for kinetics, aka rockets." They said no guarantees, but it just feels like they own the room. So this was someone that was actually at the meeting yesterday for the new Iron Dome that Trump wants to build, and their interpretation is that Raytheon, Anduril, and Palantir are going to be starting up a joint venture. I just think there is a lot of different ways that this ends up becoming real. I said Andalur. If you combine Palantir and Anduril together, you get Allender. But at the end of the day, if this becomes real, then I do think there's going to be more government contracting for Palantir, more defense spending for Palantir and Anduril, and in particular, more ways for Palantir to get integrated into the DoD, obviously into the government, and become that modern operating system. Now, Elon and Trump also sat down yesterday, and they talked about what the main function of Doge is that I want to pull up and play a little bit of that interview last night with Sean Hannity. Now, real quick, before I get into that interview, I do want to just correct myself from something I said yesterday. I didn't really fact check this, so thank you guys for fact checking this as well. But the picture that I showed yesterday about Elon showing that that like 500-year-old people are getting paid Social Security, I'm not exactly sure if that's accurate. I took it as accurate because Elon posted it and he's running Doge, so I was like, okay, that's accurate. But I had a lot of people reach out saying that that's been debunked in a lot of different ways. So is it fully accurate? Probably not. Is there some level of accuracy to it? Yes. I did not fact check that yesterday. I assumed it was true. I'm imagining that not all of it is exactly true. And I love Elon Musk so much. I glazed him like crazy yesterday and you guys made fun of me for that. But there are some tweets where he just puts out that like, it's not the full story, right? And because he has such big reach, everyone assumes it's the full story, but it ends up not being exactly correct. However, from the articles I did read yesterday, the number that kept popping up is $71 billion has been misallocated in Social Security spend. Now, that's not the exact same as Elon's interpretation of just like we are paying people that are 400 years old. But I think everyone can agree there is a misallocation of spending, and Doge is the one thing, the one chance we have to audit that level of spending. And so either we're going to see, how that plays out, what ends up happening to it. But in terms of the exact claims by Elon, I don't know if they're exactly correct, but I'm sure there are still some versions of it that are correct. I actually had some people who watched the show yesterday who work in Social Security, And they reached out and they said, okay, what he said about like people that are 250 years old getting paid, that's not correct. However, given I work in Social Security, corruption isn't even the word for what's going on, right? So there were some people that reached out and like, okay, Elon wasn't exactly correct about that, but trust me, there is definitely a misallocation of spend, and it's something that hopefully Doge can resolve, and who knows if it's going to happen, but I think the promise of Doge is that maybe there's a chance, and that's what Americans are the most excited about. Here's Elon talking about Doge with Trump yesterday in their interview.
What do you think of me is like I'm a technologist, and I try to make technologies that improve the world and make life better.
Your shirt.
Yeah, and that's why I like my T-shirt says tech support, because I'm here to provide the president with technology support. And now that may seem like, well, is that a silly thing? But actually, it's a very important thing, because the president will make these executive orders, which are very sensible and good for the country, but then they don't get implemented. So if you take for example, all the funding for the migrant hotels, the president issued an executive order where, hey, we need to stop taking taxpayer money and paying for luxury hotels for illegal immigrants, which makes no sense. Like, so obviously, people do not want their tax dollars going to fund high-end hotels for illegals, and yet they were still doing that even as late as last week. And so, we went in there and we're like, this is in violation of the presidential executive order. It needs to stop. So what we're doing here is one of the biggest functions of the Doge team is just making sure that the presidential executive orders are actually carried out. And this is, I just want to point out, this is a very important thing, because the president is the elected representative of the people. So he's representing the will of the people. And if the bureaucracy is fighting the will of the people and preventing the president from implementing what the people want, then what we live in is a bureaucracy and not a democracy.
No.
There was a lot more of that interview, but it was kind of cool to see Elon and Trump sitting down together, kind of discussing what was going on. There was one awkward moment where Trump sued Twitter for banning him for $10 million. And Hannity was like, so you just gave Trump 10 million. And Elon was like, yeah, the lawyer said to give him 10 million. So I gave him 10 million. And Trump was like, yeah, he got a discount. I should have sued him for more. So it was one of those moments where it was kind of awkward and kind of funny. But the gist of the interview was basically Elon and Trump coming together and saying, hey, we are connected. We are in harmony with each other. We agree on the same principles. And the media may be trying to divide us, maybe trying to put a wedge in between our relationship and our partnership. But we both believe there's a mutually beneficial relationship in terms of us working together and for us doing what we want to do with Doge. It went so far to the point where Elon actually thought about a Doge dividend yesterday. So this person tweeted, President Trump and Elon Musk should announce a Doge dividend, a tax refund check sent to every taxpayer, funded exclusively with a portion of the total savings delivered by Doge. Elon said, I will check with the president. Now, do I think this is going to happen? No. I think there's no way in hell that they're going to send us a Doge dividend. And if they do, I mean, how much money would it really be, right? We got 350 million Americans, or what is it, 150 million adults. I mean, I don't think this is going to be anything more than a couple of dollars if it happens, which wouldn't, there would be no point to it. But the fact that he even said, hey, I'll check with the president and see, if something like a Doge dividend could happen, means that he's a bit more aggressive on this idea that we just need to cut as much spending as possible. I don't think we're going to get a dividend, but hopefully if we just cut the spending, that's good enough, because we're spending a lot of money. So, I mean, look, my take on this, I know a lot of people are politically divided on this. I get a lot of people hate that Elon's doing this. I get that some people love that Elon's doing this. I know that some people think that Elon's unelected. He's not supposed to be doing this. Other people are saying, well, the elected officials are trash. They haven't done anything for 30 years. My take of this is very simple. I believe someone needs to balance the budget. Someone needs to balance the books. I think historically over the past 50 years, it's been very hard for politicians to do it because of bureaucracy. Elon actually not being an elected official to me is an advantage. That doesn't mean he can go crazy with it and do whatever he wants, but I do think that means at least there is an opportunity for someone that thinks from first principles, that has built trillion-dollar companies, can take a look at from a very logical perspective of like, what is the budget? What are we spending? What do we not need to spend? And how do we balance it? And I hope that it works out. I don't know if it's going to work out. They have about 500 days to make this happen. But it does seem like there's a chance for it to work out. And if it does work out, again, for all of us as investors, who are the winners there? I don't know a name that's a better winner outside of Palantir. I mean, maybe Tesla's a winner just in regards to the whole Elon-Trump relationship being seen as positive by the street. But there is going to need to be software to resolve these things, especially because Elon has talked time and time again about the necessity of a new way from a tech stack perspective to clean up a lot of the legacy issues or legacy systems that we have running in the government. I just think it's obvious that like, who is Elon going to go to Microsoft? You know, I think he's going to go to Palantir. I think he's going to at least think about Palantir in a much more serious way. And if that's the case, then I think there's a benefit at that point for Palantir. So that's what we got from last night. That's what we got with Elon and Trump, and we will see kind of the implications of that going forward over the coming months. Tesla right here down a little bit in the pre-markets. Nike's down about 1.2%. Can we talk about Bill Ackman real quick? Let's talk about Bill Ackman because he's also doing some interesting stuff, and I think we should discuss that real quick in terms of Grab. I see a lot of you people asking for it right here in the chat. So let me spend 2 minutes on Grab and tell you some of the stuff I found out last night, and then we'll talk about Bill Ackman, and then we'll get to some macro data that's really interesting. So 13 Ds and 13 Fs came out. We're going to talk a lot about all the super investors and the investments they made. I have some aggregated stats. Microsoft was the #1 stock that was bought in Q4 by super investors, but we'll talk more about that. This is Grab's official new institutional holdings chart. It is well above 70% of the float. This was updated last night. I actually woke up at like 5 a.m. this morning, and I've just been awake all morning because I slept for like 15 hours yesterday. I slept for 10 hours, woke up, ate some dinner, and then slept for... Yo, I got to tell you guys, hold on. Before we talk about Grab, I got to tell you what happened with my mom last night, bro. So I wake up, I go downstairs after waking up from a deep slumber, okay? And I'm just sitting down with my sister. We're talking about my trip, and then my mom walks in, okay? And I kid you not, this is what happened. This tweet is what happened. Like, this was happening in real time, and I was like, of course this is happening. So I got home in the morning. I slept for 10 hours after doing the market open. I woke up 30 minutes ago when I tweeted this. My mom got home from work. She walks in. She says, "Oh my God, how was your trip? Hello. I saw you with all these CEOs. I love you. Also, can you go get the groceries from the car?" And I was like, there is no way that she's at when I'm not making this up. I'm not trying to be funny here. She walks in, she gives me a hug. She says, "I love you. How was your trip? Yada, yada. I saw you with all these big time people. By the way, can you get the groceries from the car?" And I'm just like, this is like, no one can humble you more than your mom, bro. No one. She was waiting for me to come back from California to bring these damn groceries into the house. That's what it was. I don't know what she's going to do when I move out, bro. I really don't know. I think I'm going to have to hire someone to help. I don't know what she's going to do when I move out and who's going to get the groceries out of the car. Because I think for the past 15 years, it hasn't been my mom. It hasn't been my mom. So she's still the boss, bro. You could have, a crazy week and do all this cool stuff. You come back home. It's the first thing. She didn't come home, sit with me for 30 minutes. And it was like, she walks through the door and says, "Can you get the groceries?" Because my mom, she's also one of those people that like wants to get stuff done immediately. I'm a little bit more of a procrastinator. I'm like, "Mom, we'll get the groceries in 30 minutes. Like, why do we have to get it right now?" And she just like wants to get it over with. And then, me, I try to get all the groceries at once. I try to be Superman and carry everything. And she gets so mad when I do that. She's like, "Just make a couple trips." I'm like, "But it's cooler if I can pick up everything at once." And then you end up dropping something. And then she says, "I told you so." Whatever. So nonetheless, grab them groceries. Exactly. Grab them groceries. That's what I did last night. Anyway, speaking of Grab, so institutional holdings are now above 70%. People keep saying there's a massive float of 4 billion shares. 3.15 billion of the shares are locked up by the institutions. This is about 76.92%. That is the NASDAQ institutional data that was updated this morning from Grab. So, look, if there was any quarter for the stock to be re-rated, I think it would be this quarter. I think they're going to have a pretty strong earnings. Again, at 4 p.m., we'll talk more about what the earnings look like. I have some things that I'm expecting, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But I think if they can guide for adjusted EBITDA of 65%, they can be profitable again. And the wild card is they can maybe give back $1 billion to shareholders and say, "We're buying back $1 billion of our stock." This level of institutional investment, just in terms of the rapid increase from basically 45% 18 months ago to 76%, leads me to believe that the toots think that this stock is ready to take off in prime time. And it's been 3 years of consolidation. Margins are going up. Free cash flow is going up. Usually a stock price historically follows free cash flow. And I think if they deliver today after the bell, we're gonna have good earnings. So let's see what happens. It's gonna be a long journey with this one. I am a bit more conservative on my price targets, but I do think that if they can do what they need to do, then there will be a world in which Grab doesn't have to see $4 again, and hopefully doesn't have to see $5 again. But later today, we will find out if this ends up playing out. Wasn't it just 55%? Yes, now it's 76%. That's based on NASDAQ data and Fintel data. And it makes sense because all the 13Fs and 13Ds I'm seeing, it's like these institutions are buying 30, 40 million shares of Grab. Now, 30, 40 million times $5, it's not a ton of money for the institutions. But the point is that float that is so big is starting to go down in terms of the available shares left for everyone else to actually buy. So do we need massive volume for the stock to move? Yes, but if a lot of the shares are already locked up, you might not need as much volume as people thought that we needed, given the institutional holdings are larger. Earnings are at 4 p.m. today, 4 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. We will see what's going on with the institutions. They might be front running retail. That is correct. They also might be front running retail right now, and that could be a reason why the stock is going higher.